Hello and welcome to Stampscaping 101. I'm going to do a kind of a Everglades, or my version of an Everglades sunset, how I imagine one could potentially look, I guess. I'm going to be doing a background swatch of color. It's going to have I'm going to be running through, I don't know, a lot of colors of the rainbow, you might say, in warm tones, starting with the lightest one. I'm going to be coating this entire background first with the lightest tone of this color scheme, which is going to be yellow. Now, instead of taking this stylus tool and inking it up in the pad, tapping it in, inking, tapping, inking, what I've done is I've just taken a re-inker fluid and I've really saturated this sponge tip of the stylus tool and am taking it in there and getting a really good strong coating, saturation you might say, and kind of coloring, but also kind of lubricating the page with it, and I find that it just goes faster. I mean, if I have this thing that's sopping wet with ink, it just stands to, giving you really good coverage over the entire surface of the paper that much faster. Okay, starting off with my Marvy ink, a lot brighter of an ink than the first one. This one is yellow, just the basic yellow from Marvy. It's the number 5 yellow. Getting a good, strong saturation with that tone. Okay. And see, I'm kind of always turning my paper so that the application of it is in a nice ergonomic motion. This is the number 43 yellow, brilliant yellow. Has a little bit more of a slightly more orangish look to it. And remember, these inks are dye-based inks. They're transparent, so the colors underneath are always going to kind of affect what you see when you're looking from the top layer down. Okay, so even if you do cover up a lot of what you've already applied, the nature of the transparent ink is that, they're going to affect the overall, and in this case, it's going to give it a much stronger glow. This is the number 13 ochre. So a little bit more of a brownish yellow. Okay. Number 7 orange. Very bright. Kind of almost hot bright. Kind of bring in some streaks if you want to. What I do if I want a streak, I kind of just stay in one area. I'm kind of using the edge of the stylus tool as I apply it. Number 6 brown. Might notice I'm not cleaning off my tips as I move into the next color. I feel that having some of the previous color in there helps to create the transition between the two different hues, two different values quite often. Moving up into my darker values as I go through this. Okay. Number 46, Crimson Lake. Beautiful, kind of ruby red. Always starting on the outside and working my way in. That way I avoid kind of, you know, the oval shape, and I'm working this in a kind of pendulum motion like that. So as I'm touching and swiping up, that way I'm not going like this and then getting that in the middle of my card somewhere. Okay, this color that I love to use, magenta. I love using it, but I hardly ever use it. It's so bright. Super, super bright. I don't know, I should do more sunsetty types of things or something. I just have an excuse to use it. That being said, I'm hardly ever re-inking my magenta pads. Darker colors anyways, you know, except for black, maybe dark brown. I'm hardly ever inking because they kind of stay on the perimeter of the cards. This is the number 8 violet. Pretty dark tone. Putting it darker tones, I'm primarily going for the 4 corners. This is a half-page card, meaning 8.5 by 5.5. This is number 18, dark brown. One of the essential colors as far as my usage of color goes. This brown now is starting to kind of tie everything in as far as the color, you know, the color scheme that I want to achieve. It's kind of mellowing out some of the super, super hot brightness, you know, that's in there. Yet where I cover up, you know, some of these tones with this dark brown, it's still very rich in, I don't know, tonal quality, hue. Okay, now one of the things I'm going to do here is I'm going to create a bit of a mask. I'm going to create a horizon line in here. Okay, and that horizon is going to represent where the the water ends and the sky begins. Right? Okay. Oops. This is the number 6 brown again that I'm using. I had to kind of pick a tone that I thought would show up there. Okay, let me see. I'm going to go from this angle just so I don't have to move my mask. But again, I'm starting from the outside and working my way in. After that one, let's try the Crimson Lake. Can't remember which side of the stylus tool I was using. Love this Crimson Lake, it's creating such a bright glow. Magenta. And violet. Violet's normally very, very dark, you know, but this page is really kind of achieving super saturation as far as the colors are going, the values. and they're not applying as fast, you know, because it is so soaked, so the paper isn't taking to the ink quite as quickly. So that's the other side of applying something. It might not go as fast as you'd want it to, but on the other hand, the benefit is that it blends out very gracefully and not quickly. So if you get into this, we don't get all these kind of shapes showing. Because if we do, we can just blend it right out. Okay, we're going to move into the black imagery. So let's use a little bit of black in the shadows. On the horizon, corners. Okay. There's my horizon soaked through a little bit over there, so I'm just going to blend that out some. Let's go with some of that black up here in this corner. And let's go to the other corner. About like so. Anyways, that's how you have a kind of a little bit of horizon line. I just defined it with the use of color and shade. Okay. Let's get into some imagery. Inking up a cypress tree. Submerged cypress tree. Just using a black pad. Okay. And I just want to have it going off the top of the page. Use plenty of pressure, especially at this point in the scene where you have kind of a really saturated card with all those colors that were used. So you have to kind of let the ink transfer over and absorb slightly into the scene or into the paper. Okay. Now I can see that line going through there, but I'm going to color in the trees with some additional tone. Okay, let's go for another impression on the other side. Okay, a couple large ones, and let's go for the smaller cypress out in the distance. I'm using a product called Tack and Peel. There's a sticky surface here, and it's a sticky reusable surface. When it loses its tack, you rinse it off with water, let it air dry, and I guess it regains its tackiness. I haven't done that yet, so, but I've been told about it. Okay, let me see here. You know what, this horizon, let me see, isn't really high enough for this one. This one's smaller. I'd have it floating up here. change of pace. Let's do something else. Let's go for the overhanging Spanish moss stamp. Okay, do you know what I meant when I said this was too high up, low? I have to have these tops of these trees kind of going off the picture. Otherwise it's going to end abruptly. Okay. So here's the Spanish moss imagery. I'm going to have it kind of hanging from the top to kind of frame off the scene a little bit. Okay. Coming in from that side, and unfortunately with Spanish moss, you can't really use the same one for the other direction.